parable of the Good Samaritan. Just then an expert in the law stood up to test him, saying, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he asked him. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." "You've answered correctly," he told him. "Do this and you will live." But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus took up the question and said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him, beat him up, and fled, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In the same way, a Levite, when he arrived at the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan on his journey came up to him, and when he saw the man, he had compassion. He went over to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, 'Take care of him. When I come back, I'll reimburse you for whatever extra you spend.' Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" "The one who showed mercy to him," he said. Then Jesus told him, "Go and do the same." This morning I asked you, which of these 3 men who saw the man who was beaten up by the robbers are you? Are you like the priest and the Levite who walk by and maybe see that somebody's in trouble and don't do anything about it? Or are you like the Samaritan who sees the person and helps them? It talks about the 2 greatest commandments: to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And how often do we actually do that? How do we show them God's love? Do we see the people and see what they need? Do we go out of our way to meet their needs? Or even if it's something simple, if you see somebody is short on cash, do you give them that? Do you give them a coat? How do you meet their needs? Maybe it's just somebody who's lonely. Are you their friend? Or they just need somebody to talk to. Do you listen to them? There's so many different ways that we can show God's love to each other, and we get caught up in our own lives that we don't. So my challenge to all of us is to make sure that we see the other people. We don't just stay focused in on ourselves. The world is self-centered and selfish. And when we are a Christian, we are called to love each other. We are called to look at God, not ourselves. We are called to be outward focused, not inward focused. And when we focus on our relationship with God and showing the love that He has for us to others, is how we will make the biggest difference in our community and in the world. And let's make sure we don't miss the opportunities. If you see someone in need, help them. Or someone who is hurting, reach out. It can be scary, but part of what we have to do is step out of our comfort zones. The Great Commission says to go and make disciples. We can't do that sitting in the pew. We can't do that staying in our comfort zones. We can't do that hiding in the background, trying to avoid being seen. And we all have different gifts. So maybe how you help someone is not how someone else will do it, but that's okay. The Bible describes it that there are many parts of one body. We all have different gifts because we're all supposed to work together to make the church function. It's not just the pastor's job or my job. It's not Char's job as Sunday school superintendent. We're all supposed to come together to make this work and make it happen and to spread the gospel. Let's make sure we're doing that. Reach out to others. Invite them to church or start a Bible study yourself. You don't have to be an expert to study the Bible. That's why you're studying the Bible. And make sure you are showing God's love to those around you, because everyone's your neighbor. It doesn't matter whether they literally live in the house next to you, or even from the same town or state. You want to be kind to everybody. Go ahead and just leave that with the challenge, you know? Make a difference. Be that difference. Be the change in the world. Because we're not supposed to be of the world. We're of heaven as Christians. So be the difference.